Freedom, 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 freedom.
Woo,
All
that's what we're
right.
talking about. Some
We will
freedom.
get there, my friends.
Oh my
We
gosh,
will
it's like
get there.
take a breath in. I mean, so much going on. I want to say Vanell and Carrie, and we talk about is getting louder.
Yeah,
And I think this was a cry of freedom. It's that rallying cry, and we got to get loud, right?
yeah.
Right.
We're going to have a wonderful conversation today, many wonderful conversations that will speak about history and how important it is to decode history, as you talk about here. And really, one of the biggest aspects of it is about freedom. And I can't wait for everyone to hear the conversation with Patricia about Where Your Children To. But what I wanted to point out here is the things that we see here that sort of move us, sort of makes your heart pound when you sort of see the pictures of the things that are happening. And you understand then why someone wouldn't want you to have history or to understand history, because it does move you in a way to want to do better, to not want to repeat those things. And so I think that's why we have to figure out how to get loud, how to be indignant and resolute and commanding and righteous in our voices to make sure that people are hearing and understanding these things.
And speaking out to reclaim history because no one owns history. History is an inclusive story of everyone's history. We deserve to be able to tell our own histories, and we deserve to allow our children to hear a complete and inclusive history, not the history that has been chosen that they get to have because someone else chose that history. We believe in an inclusive history, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everyone should have a chance to tell that.
No doubt. And Doris Scott is here, and she's been with us now for years, and now she is a banned book expert. So we'll be talking to her about that. We're kicking off Banned Book Week with the show today. And I do want to talk about some current news because it relates to education. If you go to the Department of Education website right now, and they are talking about 40 groups they're partnering with the Department of Education, Heritage Foundation, Moms for Liberty, Catholic Vote, 40 organizations that are going to start to design patriotic education and curricula for our children. All right. And this is crazy. I looked at it. I could not believe it. I almost thought it was a fake website. So this is something going on, and the whitewashing of history, they're going to make sure that it's embedded everywhere. And with
Well,
the,
I have news
yeah.
for them. I
Yeah.
have three children one is a history major right now. They're going to call those kids are smarter than these people think. I got news for them. Those kids are going to call BS on it. So good luck
So
trying to whitewash history when we have kids with supercomputers in their hands constantly. I want to see how this all works out. I don't think it's going to go well.
right.
Kids
Well,
are smarter than they
well, it's a
realize.
battle of generations or something, because they're going to go to college campuses with this too. So they're trying to indoctrinate where they can right now. And I also want to shout out that there's a new movie out called The Librarian, that talking about what also is happening, and as activists where we need to show up and get loud is there and our libraries, after our librarians. This movie will be eye-opening about what people are struggling under. So I don't know, any more comments about that, but it just drives me crazy.
Well, I tell you, I mean, again, just channeling my momhood, I couldn't have raised my children without the library and
Thank
PBS
you.
Kids.
Thank you.
They're all under attack. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
one thing that I'd like to point out about the importance of libraries, the importance of books, the importance of all of these things is that I always use Oprah as an example, and Maya Angelou is also one of the best examples of women who became who they are because of books. Where they were from, they didn't have access to a whole lot of different cultural things or ideas, but they came to them through books. And so that is why it is so important that we make sure that our kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews have access to these things no matter where they are, so that they are expanded and they become aware of what's possible for them and they become critical thinkers.
Well, I wonder, do you really think, honestly, do we really think that Americans are going to stand by for all of this book burning and book banning? I mean, they know the history. At what point is that tipping point? I wonder.
That will be interesting because I know we're definitely, 390 million more people have to figure out how they're going to live right now under this regime. And so I'm thinking people are waking up. We see that the mass is kind of awakening. I could tell I was on the bridge yesterday doing the visibility bridge thing. We go out there and have big letters across and messages to thousands of cars. And people were beeping like crazy. Once in a while you get the little, hey, you, and you're like, thank you. But truthfully, it was like people are, you can just see people are appreciative. They're waking up, reaching a lot of people. I do want to make sure we're talking about also getting into the government shutdown.
Yeah.
If you guys have an opinion on that as well. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I'll jump right in because my big takeaway is that I think for messaging purposes, we should not be focusing on all of the people losing their jobs.
Right.
We should focus on the citizens who are not getting services that they need, services that we depend on our government to provide. I think that when we focus on how many people will go without a paycheck, we are feeding right into the talking points of the GOP, who believe that the government workers are a bunch of
Right.
freeloaders just waiting for a paycheck.
Maybe the word government shutdown, we should think about messaging and say something different. Because I'm thinking the other day, and I really thought about it, I'm like, really? I think the indignant thing, Fennell, that you've been pushing for us to stand in that spot, it's like, you're really worried about the government now when you fired over what in Virginia? You're talking 30, 40,000 jobs. You're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs, or now all of a sudden you're worried. You took food out of kids' mouths. You're worried. You're taking vaccines away. It's sort of like this, give me a break,
Yeah, I think that is exactly right.
right?
I think we can do both things. And
Yeah,
the conversation really has to be about this is what you're doing. This is what you've done. It's not new, and we're not going to stand for it. We're going to make sure we know exactly what you've done. And I do think it calls for calling on things like, okay, were you planning on taking a trip or a vacation? Because really, are you going to fly right now? Because here's how many folks are missing as air traffic controllers. Are you really going to eat that? Because here's how many people
right.
are missing in terms of making sure your food is safe. And so we can talk about a whole bunch of things that affect people's tables, affects their homes, affects everything. And we have to be clear about the fact that at the end of the day, the Republicans own the House, they own the Senate, and have the president. So who's responsible for all of these things that are happening? I'm going to just ask you to use your head through this. And
Yeah.
I do think we stop talking to people like they're kids, and we have to hold them like this. You're big boys and girls. I'm going to need you to think this one through.
And we have to be careful about using the passive voice. Someone made a really good point. They said they should call it the Republican unlawful lockout of employees. When you are calling it the
Lockout, I like
shutdown.
it.
I know a lockout is a great example, but you have to say who's doing this every time you mention it. You
Yeah.
can't use the passive voice and let people think that, oh,
Yeah.
it just happened. What the hell? I don't know. Government
Well,
shutdown. What happened?
And
it's
just
that
remember,
time. It's that time where we got to get started. Ducky over here reading the book says we got to get started. Whack whack. Okay, so I want to make sure because we have a great lineup, and you're on the Friday Power Lunch. Catherine White, your host, alongside with Fennell Norton, Carrie Short, here to bring you Decoding History, Fighting Fascism, one book at a time. And we are the hosts. We bring you the guests, the issues, the actions, fueling the grassroots community across Virginia and coast to coast, and of course, nationwide. Rules of the road. If you're new to the room, tell us where you're from. So glad to see you. We're friendly, supportive, but if you get nasty in the chat, we boot your butt out, no problem. And after 1 o'clock, we are going to stay for the after chat because that's when we turn things down. We like to a great community builder and support the show. Become a patron today. We need an October patron. I'm going to talk about our September patrons. Thank you to Wendy Whitcomb and Kate Mattis. They are our backers and our believer. Anne Marie, I think she was in the room today too. Anne Marie Cormachi, hopefully I said that name right. And Badass Swing Blue Alliance, our September patrons. And they're in the room, I hope. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember to follow us on Substack. And also the publication is free. No problem. And we love our membership though. That helps us turn the lights on. So we keep our paid stuff at Patreon. And so I want to make sure we get to our guests. We are kicking off Banned Book Week. Dory Scott is here. She's awesome. She's our banned book expert. She's going to talk about also starting a book club and being in charge of that under her guidance on the Friday Power Lunch. She's an educator, a storyteller, a scholar. And then also new to the room, welcome author Patty Pearson O'Connell. Give a wave, Patty. She was a former teacher of history, and now she writes novels, and you may have heard of Fly Girls. Well, she's here to talk about her newest book, and we are so excited to unpack that today with her. And we have the Fredericksburg Power Pack with us. So excited. They're in the room. Josh Cole, Nicole Cole, Sarah Radcliffe, and we also have Stacy Carroll. And from the Suffolk Power Pack, Karen Casey Carnegie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. I also want to do one quick shout out in the after chat today. We will have Hannah here from Clean Virginia because they're going to talk about their clean energy tour. We're partnering with them on October 15th, and Manassas is their first kickoff. So she's going to be in the after chat, and they'll be on next week talking about data centers too. But just so you know, that's really important. And I had one more thing. October 18th, talk about your No Kings in the chat. We want to know what's going on with that. And yeah, I think the Fearless 4 phone banks will be up and some other great actions we're going to be putting in the chat to make calls for that. So for now, it's going to be over to you, and I'm looking forward to talk about the book. Very exciting.
I am very excited to talk about the book too. So, Patty, bring Patty.
Bring Patty up. There we go. A lot of work for our back crew up there. Thank you to the crew up above. All right, go ahead.
Hi, Patty. I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you again. You've done books before, and I'll let you
Yes.
sort of take a minute and talk about yourself so folks can be grounded about who you are, talk about the first books, and then we're going to get into We Are Your Children too.
Sure. Well, I am a former retired history teacher, Fairfax County Public Schools for many, many years. And then I wrote history curriculum and materials in the private sector for a number of years. But I always wanted to write. And so I went back and got an MFA in writing for young people. And lo and behold, it worked. And so I write for young people, and I write nonfiction. And so the first book was Fly Girls, which is, oh, it's got my blur there. Fly Girls, which is about the women who flew military planes in the US during World War II. And then Fighting for the Forest is about the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression. And then Conspiracy is about Watergate. And then the most recent one out there, I have one coming out in March, but the most recent one out there, which I just dropped, there it is. We Are Your Children too. And so that's the one we're talking about today. And it's about the school closings, the school strike, and then school closings in Prince Edward County, Virginia.
So that's where we'll start. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that story, which is really wonderful and interesting because it really was part of Brown versus the Board of Education. So why don't we start there? And we opened the show with the song, and Barbara Johns was actually featured there. Her sister was actually featured there.
Yes.
So why don't you take a few minutes and sort of talk about how you came to this story and why it was so important
Sure.
to write it?
Yeah, and that was a beautiful opening, absolutely beautifully put together. So Barbara Johns was the oldest of 5 children in Farmville, Virginia. And so that's where Longwood University and Hampton-Sydney College are, and the Greenfront Furniture Store, I think it's their main claim to fame. Very rural, very small place now. And so in 1950, it was even smaller, maybe 4,000 people or so. And of course, at that time, all the schools in the South were segregated, and Prince Edward County was no exception. And Barbara Johns, their school, the building itself was a fine building initially, but it was built for 175 students. And by the time she was a student there were 450 students in that same building. And they had built these kind of sheds on the property, which leaked and used dangerous wood-burning stoves. And it was just physically a disaster. And so in 1950, when she was a junior, she decided to do something about it. And she spent about 6 months pulling in students that she trusted that she thought were the cream of the crop, was how she worded it. And they planned a student strike. They went on strike against the school system, the school board of Prince Edward County, demanding a better facility. It never occurred to them to demand desegregation. That wasn't a thing yet. This is before Rosa Parks. It's before any of that most people know fairly well. And so she organized this strike. And in April, they were so detailed with it, they even checked the weather forecast to make sure it would be a dry day that they would do this. They sent notes to the teachers saying that they needed to bring their students to an emergency assembly. And it was signed BJ, which we know as Barbara Johns, but the principal's name was Boyd Jones. And so at the appointed time, the teachers, thinking the principal has done this, take their students to the auditorium. In the meantime, they have lured the principal into town by disguised, one of the boys with a deep voice, disguised his voice, called the principal and told him that there were some kids in trouble in town. And so the principal took off to go get them. And once they got in there, Barbara Johns stood up and she gave an impassioned speech, and her sister, Joan, whom you saw in that clip, described how she slid down in her chair, horrified at what her sister was about to do. She didn't know. She'd kept it from her. And so she convinced all of the students to walk out. And they went out into the grounds and started singing and chanting and carrying on. And so what happened then was that they contacted the NAACP in Richmond, and they agreed to take their case and represent them, but only if they sued for desegregation, because they had realized by then that separate but equal never worked. And so
let me
yeah.
so let me stop you there, because there's a couple of things that I want to go back to when you talked about the fact of the overcrowding of the school. And then they made these sheds that actually had black tar on the
Tar
top
paper
that was
roof,
supposed
yeah.
to keep the rain out. But she knew it was supposed to be better. How old was she at this time when this young woman
16.
was doing? She was 16. And I
16.
just think it's sort of important for our audience to sort of hear and understand that the people taking the lead here, this young woman, this is a young woman, 16 years
Mm-hmm.
old. So what I want you to talk a little bit about is in the book, the people who were impacted, because when desegregation finally happened, the big part of this story is what happened over the next 4 years.
Right.
Talk a little bit how you got there and how you got the story about how people were feeling during that time.
So the striking students, with their parents' permission, joined a lawsuit. They were one of 5 cases that became Brown versus the Board of Education. They were the biggest group of plaintiffs, and they're the only student-led group in that case. The strikers, for the most part, had graduated. The ones who had organized it had all graduated before that case was settled. They were off to, many of them, to college, into the work world. And so it was their younger brothers and sisters who were going to benefit from this, and they knew that. That decision comes down in 1954. Schools must desegregate, but it didn't have a date. It didn't have a time frame on it. And so the schools, most of the schools, almost all of the schools in the South, just dragged their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Delay, delay, delay. And Prince Edward County was the champion of that. Finally, in 1959, the Supreme Court came back to Prince Edward County specifically and said, you will desegregate your schools when they open in September. That was in June of 59. 2 days later, they knew this was going to happen. 2 days later, the school board announces that Prince Edward County doesn't have public schools. Done. Because this only applied to public schools And so they just closed all their schools. They
Okay.
had already figured out how to use taxpayer money to give, this is a phrase today, tuition vouchers for the private white academy that they were planning on. And so that academy opened in church basements and, you know, the Elks Hall and that kind of place. Didn't have a gym, didn't have a library, didn't have music classes, on and on and on, which the public version of the school had. But they preferred that to desegregating. And so the white kids had a place to go, almost all of them, not all. The black kids had nothing, absolutely nothing. And that went on for 5 years. And so there is a generation of students from Prince Edward County who missed 5 years of schooling, wherever it was they were in the system. And some of them therefore missed 1st through 5th grade. They started school when they were 11.
Wow. So here's where I'd like to go because we want to encourage everyone to get this book if they have not gotten this book. What I want to know is, so you've done this book, you've done all this research. What is it that you want people to take away? And typically this is for young people. This is for young
Mhm.
people, but hey,
Yeah.
if you're an old chick like me, you can read the book and you can read it pretty fast and it's pretty good too. But what is it that you want people to take away? What did you want kids to walk away and understand from reading this book?
I guess the main thing was the power of individual people to change things. I mean, this is a 16-year-old girl. And yes, she was a good student. She was bright. And she chose students who were like that to join
Mhm.
her. But the fact that she thought of it and her school had instilled that kind of idea in these students because it was an all Black faculty. They were very, very accomplished people who could not get university jobs and what have you, despite their degrees. Um, and they were teaching the whole person, not just the various subjects. They were tremendous faculty. And so she had this confidence and banding together with the other students, and they stuck it out. And then when the schools closed, the efforts on the part of the parents and the minister there, the pastor of the First Baptist Church there, and a variety of other people to find a way to educate these students was just heartrending. And the majority of them just didn't have that education. And so many of them are still around. There aren't too many of the strikers left, but many of them are still around in their 70s and 80s. And their lives were so dramatically altered by that school closing. It's just the cruelty of that is just astonishing. So you want kids or anybody else.
Mhm.
We don't know these stories. We should know these stories. And if you know one of them, you know there are a million others like it. To say, that's where we've been. We don't want to be there again. But also to say, here's one student who manages to have that kind of impact. And she was an ordinary person. An ordinary
Right.
person who did something extraordinary. And that's what I want kids to see, is you don't have to be the big superstar hero ahead of time. You can be the regular person and still be that.
You can be the regular person and still be that. And there's something in it for us as adults too,
Yes.
of understanding history and, you know, that we can get through things. And we're in the midst of some really big things now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that this story, because the governor, everybody of power in the entire state was against desegregation. And so these students,
Yes,
these people were fighting against the entire state.
they were. They were. And the whole South. you
Oh
know,
my
and I shouldn't even say that. I mean, Boston had terrible problems, you know, it was all over the place. But that, yeah, they went up against a power structure. And at that time, Virginia was very much the good old boy system.
God.
And so they were going up, and they knew, the parents signing on, um, to support this knew that if they worked for a white company, they could lose their job. If they rented from a white landlord, they could lose their home, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the courage of those individuals, and I think of it now, and we're in the situation we're in, which we weren't in when I wrote it, but we are now. And I think, you know, of people who say, oh, well, no, I can't boycott Target because they have really good toilet paper.
Mhm.
It's like,
Power.
we do have power if we choose to use it.
Ah, I love that.
So Catherine, I know you're here. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping, Patty, that you can stay for the after chat. I know people will have so many more questions about your experience writing this book, what you came up with, where you got some information and data. So I hope that you can stay. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the new book coming up is really also Reformers. What is that one? Is the No
It's
Order?
called No Ordinary Women. And
Yes.
it's about women reformers in the progressive era, so 1890 to about 1920. It's not specifically about the suffragists, although most of these women were, but it's about them doing all sorts of,
Very cool.
inventing community organizing, inventing public health nursing, inventing all of
Great.
it.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And do stay with us. Thank you, Patty. Be great.
Thank you.
And make sure we drop in the chat where people can buy these books. I think these are great gifts also for young people. And I'm so grateful they're in school. And like you said, who doesn't love an abridged, easy version of to read? And I love the story, and just and going back and looking at it all is incredible. It's a great segue to Dory. So
Yes.
I'm so grateful we have her here, and like to bring up Dory Scott, a friend of the show, and also the Women's Summit, our poet laureate, and also, may I call you Dr. Dory Scott? Doctor, yes, that's good. I love it. You'll be
How
big.
are you?
Everybody in the room, double, triple snaps for Dory. I will let her tell you about that journey, but just to say today we're kicking off Banned Book Week. I contacted you and you made some space for us, so thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let me shout out first to Stare. She called me yesterday and she was so wonderful. She said, Dory, we're so excited. We got to get you on. We got to talk to you. It's time to talk about banned books. And I said, I'm your Christian girlfriend who's also celebrating the Jewish highest day. And I celebrate Yom Kippur because I'm all about loving all God's children. And so I celebrated Yom Kippur yesterday, celebrated with a break fast last night. And I said, I would do it any other day, but I want to be true to my word, which is do what you say you're going to do. And I am here to change the world to make it good for all of us. So Stare, I'm back fully atoned. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad because when you listen to Patty, an author writing for young people specifically, that's her lane. You in that documentary Band Together talk about the impact of book banning on students. I think that's a really powerful, like look at what somebody's writing for students. It goes in schools. Somebody's trying to take those books away from students and the impact. Tell us about your work on that briefly, just, really what that looks like when we take that out of kids' hands.
Well, if you'd like to learn a little bit about some of the research that I've done, go to Apple Plus, and there's a wonderful award-winning documentary. And that documentary talks about the impact of students who got involved with banning books. It's called Band Together. A lot of my research was worked on that particular work. And the three women that are in there are three young, dynamic women who were in high school, now all in college, who went to Charleston, South Carolina, and said, we're going to ban books. But like in the words of Dr. Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. And what those women did was they started doing better. Now, how did I get involved in this? I'm a daughter of two who didn't graduate college. My father didn't even graduate high school. But what they put in our home was a book. a book to read, to be better, to learn more, to give back in ways that I thought I could never be. So as I sit here on the shoulders of all of you who read books, I'm telling you, read the banned book. And the reason we want to read the banned book is because the number one book that is banned, we've all read it. Remember this?
84. Yeah.
Number one book that is banned.
Isn't that something? I mean, yeah, right? Don't want anybody to know about that. So true when you see where this year, when I'm paying attention, and we're talking about freedom of speech, censorship, and this administration, their spin on it is so perverted. I don't know how else to say it. But you know, what they're saying for free speech and what they're actually doing are two different things. So why don't you get into a little bit about, I'm interested, I'm interested in this, what you do right now, or if you're active in how making sure that kids do get access to books in the sense of the school systems, or what you're seeing, the fight with librarians and all that. What is your take on what's happening in that lane right now? Is it pretty hot still? Is this what teachers are still facing this? This is still an onslaught attack that's going on?
You asked the right one. I'm all about the data, and the data drives the story. So let's start with this. There are over 10,000 books that are banned. Last year, 6,870 touches is what I call them, or ways in which book bans are impacted, is happening in your classroom, in your library, and in your home. The number one book banned last year is a book by Anthony Burgess. It's a classic. It is called A Clockwork Oranges. It is a children's book.
Okay.
Bluest Eye is still banned. It's in the top 10. That was the book that got me saying, wait a minute, this is the book that helped me understand a little bit about myself. What I did find in my data is when we put books in front of children, they become more empathetic. And that is the number one reason that we want to continue to have books available to all voices, LGBTQA+, Black, Brown, Jewish, Asian. We want, because when you understand someone who's not like you, you can read about it and your heart will open. Empathy is about kindness. It's about awareness. And that's what my data showed me.
I love that. And how about resilience in the sense of, like, I was also reading a little bit about, when you're training kids and history, it's really hard to trick people. Like when fake information comes around, if you kind of know your history, then people will tell you otherwise. It really arms you with information. I'm assuming it really helps kids be better thinkers, critical thinkers, and your research.
Exactly. Yeah.
Does it,
So empathy was number one. Critical consciousness came out, and that came out of looking at, remember W.B. Du Bois, who talked about that double consciousness. So when we look at his work and we say, how are we critically thinking about who we are? And then, of course, Bell Hooks, who talked about when students are in the classroom, we have transgressions in the classroom that we want to bring to the table so that we can meet everyone, no matter what they're doing. And the student must bring as much to this classroom as the student gives to the teacher. So most of us think, oh, the teacher's going to teach. No, transgressions in the classroom is about the teacher understanding the student to get something back from them to make them better.
Nice. So I want to end here because we only have about a minute and not enough time, but we'll have time in the after chat. And I'll say I won't be in the after chat. I have to go to an appointment, but I'm going to look forward to hearing about it. But the book club, I'd like you to assign us a book to read this month or two.
I did not pick a book for us to read.
That's okay.
What I'd like to do is ask you to bring your favorite book and make sure it's banned, and let's start there. And the reason for that is because I want us to see the diversity and the number of books that are banned throughout the United States. We're going to call this, and you tell me if you want this. Let me know, Catherine, the Badass Book Club. You want to call it that? We can call it whatever you want, but I want you to bring your favorite book, and we're going to hold our books up, and we're going to look like this.
All right.
We're going to post that picture around the world so people will see the number of books. And I'm telling you, if everybody brings a different book, you're going to be surprised at the number of books that are banned. How's that for a start?
I love it. So thank you, Dory Scott, for being here today. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're going to hand it over to Carrie.
That is such a great idea.
Was it? Yeah, I love that idea. I hand over to you, friend. And I'm so excited about the Power Pack.
I know it's the Fredericksburg Power Pack. Let's bring them up. I'm excited to see them. I think Dennis is going to help us also pull up the map in a minute when we get our folks up. But we're really excited. There's some really good races in the Fredericksburg Power Pack. And of course, our good friend Casey Carnegie is going to join us today from the Suffolk Power Pack. She couldn't make it when her buds were on, so we brought her back for today. So hey, Nicole, we got you on. Excited to see you. So we've got this Fredericksburg Power Pack. So they are entirely within CD7. So that brings a really important aspect to the race, just like we can all relate to those really important House districts that are also within important congressional districts. So real quick, though, we're going to see what the map looks like. So Dennis is going to just bring it up. This saves you guys a lot of trouble of trying to explain exactly where your district is. Oh, look, there's the October Weekend of Action ad for everyone coming down to Hampton Roads to Canada.
So this is virginiagrassroots.org homepage. If you want to find the power packs, they're this front top button. Here's our map where the power packs are. And today we're talking to Fredericksburg.
Sweet, look at that.
Here we have our candidates, and over on the right are events going on there. So we have a fundraiser for Stacey Carroll on the 3rd. And here's everybody, links to their websites.
And kind of the color coding based on
counties.
leaning, and it's great.
So,
yeah, it's always great, for us to bring this up just to kind of walk people through finding the power packs and also those special events, because it really tells you different ways you can support the candidates. And one of them is showing up at their public events to be friendly faces in the crowd. All right, well, let's get to it because we don't have too much time. But first, I wanted to bring up, we have the Delegate Josh Cole is with us. Hello. Raising your hand. Yep, there you are. And then you are in District 65. So I just kind of want to bring you up, and then I'll give you the honor of having the last word like I did last week. So we've got a hot minute for each person to kind of give us an understanding of your race and what's going on, what's so important about your race this year.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Carrie. And thank you to everyone who is on. It's been a long journey for all of us, right? Many of you have been supporting me since 2017. The very first time I ran and lost by just 73 votes. And so here we are now where we have done the hard work in our district, and our district is now a blue district. But it is not deep blue like Northern Virginia. It's not deep blue like Hampton. We are very, very light blue. Governor Youngkin did win our district, and he is the last Republican to win it, but we don't want to take anything for granted. If he could win the district once, that means another Republican can win it again. But this year, I really believe that we're going to be cautiously optimistic that we're going to be victorious, not just for me, but for Stacey Carroll, for Nicole Cole, for Forrest, for Sarah, because people are really fed up and they are pissed TF off at what is happening coming from the federal government, right? And so we now have an opponent. I just stepped off the debate stage last night who showed up unprepared. He couldn't even answer any questions that were posed to him. And so when the Republicans want to fund unprepared people to lead our government, we know we have a problem. And so we've been out knocking on doors. We've been out having conversations with friends and family members. We have outraised our opponent. We are on TV. We are in the mailboxes, and he's not doing any of that. So they're not taking this seat seriously. So we need to make sure that we keep fighting so that we can still hold on to the seat and then expand our majority with Stacey, with Nicole, with Forrest, and with Sarah.
That is really encouraging. I know your race, I was surprised as close as it does lean blue, but it is still listed as competitive. So I was really surprised to see that. All right, I want to bring up Sarah Radcliffe from 62. Sarah, give us just a little brief idea of what your district's like and why you're running.
Yeah, thanks. I'm so happy to be here and be part of this Power Pack. If you look behind me, this little red heart is right where my district is. If you draw a triangle between Culpeper, Fredericksburg, and Charlottesville, right in the heart of the Piedmont is where the 62 is. I was raised by a single mom who struggled, and we were able to put food on the table and have a roof over our head thanks to support from things like Section 8 and SNAP. With hard work and opportunities, I was able to go from Section 8 to a CEO of a national nonprofit that worked with state policymakers across the country. Here in the 62nd district, it is largely rural. It is a lot of struggling families. Farmers are really getting hit by the tariffs and other things that are coming down from the federal government. We have 8,000 families that are going to be either cut from Medicaid or have their SNAP benefits cut in these next 3 to 6 months. We need to make sure that we have somebody in Richmond who is showing up and who is part of the community, which I very much am. This is my third run for the State House. And this time feels very different. People know us, people are out there, people are excited, and we are gonna make it happen.
Yeah, and
the
you,
one
this is
thing I wanted
so,
to just also, I just wanted to add one quick thing. So this talk of banning books, unfortunately, my district, Madison County, was where this most recent iteration of banning books and trading equity education for patriotism and civic engagement with a Christian nationalist spin on it was where it started. My opponent describes herself as a military wife, Christian homeschooled mom who really wants to legislate her faith into existence. That's not what the 62nd needs. It's not what the Commonwealth needs. With help from amazing folks across the Commonwealth and all of our excited voters, we're going to flip the 62 and bring some blue to the Blue Ridge.
I love that. I love that. And people are excited about your race. You've outperformed you've outperformed her in fundraising. So people are obviously really excited about that. And it's been hovering around 60% for like the last 6 elections, 60% toward red. So you could edge that out. I'm really excited about that. Well, I want to bring up Stacy. Stacy Carroll is running in the 64th. She is running versus an incumbent, right? So you are the challenger here. It's a very close district, though. Very close.
It is, Carrie. So good afternoon and welcome. I am here. It is a very close district, but there's a lot of change that's happening in Stafford County. Specifically speaking, in 2021, the district went R+13, but in 2024, the district went R+2. When Kamala did not win, Tim Kaine won this district in that very same election. I am out knocking on all doors, Trump doors, independents, various low propensity voters, you name it, I am talking to them, not about D or an R, but about government and policies. And once we win, various things that we'll be able to implement that impact their lives. And I am going in all spaces, whether that be from various churches to synagogues to even the commuter lots here in Stafford, Virginia, because we know without question, we have to go where they are. I know that because I am not a politician, never desired to run for office. I just was a teed off mom. I just got tired of cussing at the TV. I was literally a CPA auditing the federal government's financial statements, providing real recommendations on how to get rid of the waste. Member of the National Guard, I retired this coming December, and a foster mom, specifically teens. I was recognized as Foster Mom of the Year last year for that work. I am just over the garbage and ready to clean house for real when it comes to how we work and serve our families here in Virginia.
I love that. A straight talking, strong female. That's what we're all about here at Network Nova and the Friday Power Lunch. We love it. No offense, Delegate Cole. Yeah, and Forrest, we appreciate you. But yeah, go. Badass women unite. Speaking of badass women, I'm going to bring up Nicole. She is running in House District 66, which leans are, it's listed as competitive. It's also within, we mentioned it's in CD7, which does lean R. You are running against an incumbent. Tell us what's getting everyone excited about your race.
Well, as many of you and people in their community know, me as the fiery and fearless Spotsylvania County School Board member who is all in for our public schools and working families. I'm also a financial advisor and business owner, a proud mother of 3 sons, and I was the only Democrat on the ballot in 2021 when I ran for school board who won my race. While this district still says that it leans R in 2024, Tim Kaine won the district. Kamala lost only by a little bit. When we redistricted in 2022, this district actually leans more Democrat, and we're going to show that with the election on November the 4th. We are also out knocking all doors. My incumbent opponent has been in office for 35 years. And we have about a little less than a third Republican voters registered, about a third Democratic voters, and a third of no data voters who we are engaging by knocking doors all over our community to let them know that they absolutely have an option and they have to come out and make sure to vote for me this election. And I have a track record that people know me in this district because of my service on school board fighting the extremists. And the extremists who did whatever they wanted when they had the majority on our school board, including hiring an unqualified superintendent who banned books in Spotsylvania. And we had the chair of the school board who was the one who said to ban and burn the books. And I will say here for everyone on this, on here, that we all need help to be able to be elected, because the bottom line, as far as the book banning is concerned, it doesn't matter how hard we're yelling. We had 90% of the audience coming to school board member meetings, not wanting our books to be banned. If they have power, they will do it anyway. And I saw that being on the extremist majority school board. The nation is seeing that now with the federal government that we have. And so the only way we can make sure that books aren't banned is by electing and supporting candidates to be elected who will prevent that from happening.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe that we're even here, right, Nicole? I mean, it's really hard that we are talking about banned books in 2025 and seeing how much these school board races, we are always talking about how important school board races are. And look, you've been inspired to come and run for House of Delegates because of your experience. And I love that you've gotten that name recognition through the school board. So we really appreciate that about you and your service. I want to quickly bring up someone from, well, I guess I need to get to Forrest real quick. Forrest, you're in District 63. Tell us a little bit about why you're running and why people are excited about it. We've got about a minute and a half for you to tell us about your district.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Running in 63 in between Sarah, Nicole, and Josh. So problems don't stop at district lines. That's what we've been knocking on doors with the message. So really out there just solving a lot of problems that folks are having. I retired Army 4 years ago. I know if I would have been ran my unit the way the government's running things right now, it wouldn't have worked. Because I was taught and I was raised in the Army to care for my soldiers. And I think that's what we need to get out there and lead with love, compassion, humility. That style of leadership is needed right now. I actually just got back from early voting site, and I was talking to some Republicans about I have a lot of free time to be at early voting right now because a lot of my work calls were canceled because of the shutdown. So I was talking to them about it. The number one message from them, they said, they'll be okay. That's what they said. Federal workers, they'll be okay. I'm like, well, I just talked to one, they're worried about paying their bills. I mean, where's the empathy at? And that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. So thanks for having me.
And I think it's great when we have people with your experience and your service, and thank you for that, to be in Richmond because so many important decisions are made. I'm going to quickly get to Casey. She's running an 89 down here in my area, not in the Fredericksburg Power Pack. So Casey, really tell us a little bit about your district. We're excited. It is an open seat. You are competitive. You have outraised your opponent, and we're excited. What are people excited about?
Yes, thank you so much for having me and taking time out of your event to let me speak a little bit. I'm Casey Carnegie, running in the 89th district, which covers a portion of Chesapeake and a portion of Suffolk down to the North Carolina line. I'm a small business owner. I run my own law practice, have two daughters. That in 2018, I moved back into the 89th district because it's actually where I was born and raised. I wanted to move back here because I had started my law practice here in 2012 and I lived in another part of the city. But I wanted to move back because I wanted my daughters to be raised by the same community that raised me. You know, the community where when I got pulled over for the first time at 16, my dad knew about it before I did. The community where you knew your grocery cashier and you talked and caught up while she was checking out your groceries. And I really wanted to give my community a voice. Norfolk is one of the largest naval bases in the nation, and we have one of the largest federal worker populations. And we're hearing that our constituents are scared. They don't know if they're going to go to work on Monday and have a job. I actually just hired a paralegal that was a federal worker because she was tired of not knowing whether or not she was going to have a job. And so it's funny that this this meeting is about history because I was just telling my 11-year-old the other day, she was having some trouble in civics, and she wants to be a public defender when she grows up. And I said, you know, you learned you wanted to be a public defender because you wanted to right some of these wrongs that had been done, right? She's like, yeah. I said, that's history. You want to fix what you've learned about from the past. So think about civics that way, and trying to fix what you've learned from what people have done before you. And I know that this election is going to be a moment in history because they're going to see that we held the line in Virginia against what's happening on the federal level and changed the course of the entire country. So I'm excited. I need everyone's vote, everyone's support, door knocking, making calls so that we can get across the finish line in November. This race in 2023 was lost by 521 votes. We can find 5,021 votes to win this thing.
Yeah, it's definitely very flippable. And I'm so glad you mentioned the big blue wall. We keep talking about that, how we're going to protect Virginians by having a strong Democratic trifecta in Virginia. I want to just quickly go back to Forrest because I don't want to give you the short shift here. Let us know something we can do to help your campaign. I know some of your colleagues in your Power Pack have been getting a lot of outside help. Forrest, I haven't seen your name out there as much. What can we do to help you and some of the smaller campaigns around the state?
Yeah, we're pushing folks to follow us on social media and
Okay.
share. We got some ads that are about to start running on connected TV and Google Ads, so you'll see it on YouTube. So about to start firing that up. I think that's the most efficient way we can use our funds. So
great idea. And that's something that we can do from all over the Commonwealth. Is start following you, liking your stuff, sharing your stuff, get you out there. That's a great idea. So I told Delegate Cole we'd give him the last word. You want to send us out? Oh, before I do that, point of personal privilege as the coastal anchor, I need to say that it wasn't, so Casey Carnegie, we recruited her to come to the Women's Summit. She couldn't come. She sent her assistant. We spent the whole weekend with her assistant. We've been working with Casey Carnegie. Commercial came on. I found out her dad, my dad, best friends. Had no idea. Best friends in college, partners in CPA firm. No idea till I saw her commercial. So I'm really excited about that little sister through our dads. Anyway, Delegate Cole, take us home, end us up, give us some encouragement.
Thank you so much. The sisters from different misters.
I think it shows that accountants raise powerful women. So it's a good thing.
Well, listen, y'all, I am really excited about just, 33 days away, right? We have a few more days to make sure that we can let Lottie Dottie and everybody know the importance of why we need a Democratic trifecta. I've been telling everyone that Abigail Spanberger, as our governor, has dealt with Donald Trump's mess in D.C. before. With her helming at the helm of our state, she will be able to guide this ship in partnership with this General Assembly who has the experience and the opportunity to repair and fix our government. But on top of that, we need Senator Ghazala Hashmi to make sure that she is able to break any tie-breaking votes. It's a good thing we got a good little cushion over there in the Senate, so we may not have to have any tie-breaking votes, but we need her there as well. And most importantly, we need Jay Jones, who's going to be able to sue the brakes off of Donald Trump and make sure that we as Virginians are protected regardless of what craziness comes out of Washington, D.C. And then we don't stop there. You make sure you vote for everyone who's running for the House of Delegates with D beside their name, all the way down to the school board and to the dog catcher. And you make sure you find out who's running, because with the craziness that's coming out of Washington, D.C., we do not have time to play games. We have to make sure that mothers are protected, that our babies are protected, that reproductive freedom is protected, that marriage equality is protected. All of these things are directly under attack with Trump's MAGA Supreme Court. And so it requires each and every one of us to have the conversations with our friends and family members over the next couple of weeks to say, don't sit this one out. I'm not asking you to the polls. I'm dragging you to the polls. Don't meet me there, beat me there. Show up, show out, and listen, I'm a little hood on the inside too. In the early 2000s, there was a rapper by the name of Bone Crusher who came out with a song that said, "We ain't never scared." So when we show up to these polls, when we invite people to turn in their absentee ballots, we ain't never scared about this Trump administration. We're going to show out, we're going to vote, we're going to protect our rights, and we're going to make sure that Lottie Dottie and everybody is protected. My name is Joshua Cole. I'm the delegate for the 65th District, and I can't wait to see y'all in January at Her Excellency's inauguration and our swearing in when we all become delegates and reelected again. God bless y'all. Let's go fight and win.
Thank you, Delegate. What a way to end. I love
So
that.
Carrie, that's what I call a righteous indignation, which is what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. It's great to have a little cheerleader in the group. And I love envisioning all 6 of these folks in Richmond. We'll come visit you on lobby days. We'll all be up there for lobby days. We promise. Fantastic. All right, Fennell, it's just you and me, hon.
Yeah, it's just you and me, and there's so much that both of us have to get done today. You have to get going for the weekend of action. I have to finish my baskets for the weekend of action. But let me
Do you have
talk.
your speech ready?
Yeah, I got my speech ready.
Oh, you're supposed to say, what speech? Wait, what? I'm giving a speech? No.
Listen, I am always ready, but I'm gonna go ahead and take us out. So we want everybody to subscribe to YouTube, Substack, Friday Power Lunch publication. There's a recap, and there's also the hot takes that I do every weekend. You'll get them on Monday sometime, but it's the things that I think were most important about the show. Next week, we're going to have Hispanic Heritage Month. The theme is collective heritage, honoring the past, envisioning the future. Delia Palchik, who's the Providence District Supervisor, Alfonso Lopez, House Delegate, and Tania Talento from Community Leader, and she's a people-focused advocate. And we're also going to have a segment from Clean Virginia. And Elizabeth Guzman, and we'll have Savannah Wilson, Energy Policy Analyst, and Diana J., who is the Deputy Director, Strategy and Governance. What else?
Awesome. We're going to decode history, then we're going to change history. I'll see you in the after chat.
I'll see you in the after